Now, the United States on Monday announced that it had taken steps to impose visa bans on persons who disrupted the recent general elections in Nigeria. Now, in a statement on the U.S. State Department website, Secretary of State Antony Blinken said the United States is committed to advancing democracy in Nigeria and around the world. Now, today, I am announcing that we have taken steps to impose visa restrictions on specific individuals in Nigeria for undermining the democratic process during Nigeria's 2023 election cycle. He clarified that the visa ban is specific to certain individuals and not necessarily directed at the Nigerian people or the government of Nigeria as a whole. According to the statement, these individuals under U.S. Immigration and Nationality Act will be subject to restrictions on visas to the United States or to be responsible for or complicit in undermining democracy. He said, and I quote, "These individuals have been involved in intimidation of voters through voters' activities and vote results and other activities that undermines Nigeria's democratic process." End quote. Now, the decision to take steps to impose visa restrictions, he said, reflects the continued commitment of the United States to support Nigerian aspirations to strengthen democracy and the rule of law. However, the U.S. did not name the Nigerians affected by the latest visa ban, although some Nigerians, including controversial Lagos bus transport chief Musiliu Akinsanya, also known as MC Oluomo, were caught on video threatening potential voters. Nigeria's most recent elections were held on the 25th of February and the 18th of March for federal and state elections, respectively. The process was fraught with a number of irregularities, including pockets of violence in different parts of the country. The presidential election, which held on February 25, produced Ahmed Bola Tinubu as president-elect. He will be sworn in on May 29, although his two main opponents are challenging his election in court. Now, in order for us to actually delve into the conversation this morning, we have in the studio a legal practitioner, Evans Ufeli, who is also a political enthusiast. Evans, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to VUP this morning.
Good morning, Evans.
So we do know that immediately after the supplementary elections on March 18, we actually heard the United States make comment concerning the fact that there were going to be visa restrictions on some Nigerians who were touted to have actually manipulated the elections, caused mayhem, or caused some sort of distractions, and that they will not be able to travel out of the country, although they are verifying that not all Nigerians. Apparently, they know some specific Nigerians who they intend to give a restriction on their visa. What do you think they are not telling us?
Well, it's not even a policy as
Oh, really?
it's not a policy, it's a legislation.
Okay.
The Immigration Act clearly states that if you undermine democracy, not just Nigerians, it includes every other country that does business with the United States, or persons who have interactions or transactions with the U.S. and who often go to the U.S. We are mostly targeted because most of our politicians here have investments, either houses or whatever, in the United States. So it's a good one to say that if you are doing anything to undermine democracy in your home country, we will not allow you into our country because we hold democracy to a high esteem. It's a very good one. I mean, for the United States to even reduce it into their own immigration laws, their policies, and they have high intelligence network. They know the number of persons who contributed negatively to ensure that the 2023 election did not really turn out well, even after the heavy investment that came with it. Look at the investment, started from amending the Electoral Act, which took about 4 times. The president vetoed it 4 times. Legislative time, money spent, and all that on that alone is could have been used to do something better. And now you have the act. Some persons want to ensure that they truncate the provisions of the act, substantial non-compliance with the act, which you spent over 5-6 years to come up with. And if we don't have punitive measures for ourselves, okay, then we have the United States of America merge that punitive measure on our citizens who have undermined democracy.
All right, so let's look at this scenario. Did the INEC chairman go against the Electoral Act in the just concluded presidential and governorship elections?
Well, you cannot put a straight pin on whether he went against it but there were infractions from INEC itself.
Okay, so is it possible that INEC will be a part of the list of those that will be restricted when it comes to...
Of course, there were INEC staff, they were collecting gratification, mutilating result sheets, and doing all that. You know, Americans have their observers on ground. They have their own intelligence network on ground. All they have done is to ensure that they have a full grip of what they are doing. So that when they say the following persons will be restricted from going to the country, they know exactly what they are saying. They have the names, they have intelligence, they have everything. Okay? So for those who don't really have much to do in the US, who are not very influential or who don't have affluence, who have been here, maybe those ones, there will be no serious disadvantage to them. But for the politicians who do business there, who have properties, who interface effectively, some of them will have their families there. Okay, they will not be able to go and see their families. They will not be able to do that.
Now,
that's what I said.
Do you have an idea how long such restrictions last for? Does it last for the tenure of the government or longer?
Well, I read the act last night. It talks about restriction. The restriction, I think, is tied to the government's discretion or prerogative, because there's nothing like a 4-year term restriction or a 5-year term restriction. I think it's tied to, and usually such restrictions, when you have such restrictions, you will also subject such restrictions to appeal. Okay, I mean, just like when somebody is refused visa, you can actually appeal. Yes, because you are appealing against the attendant, the visa attendant, who felt by all indication you should not be, there is no guarantee that you will return to your country. That's one of the reasons they give. And other reasons are there too. Okay, so if that happens, the person can appeal.
Okay.
You understand?
Now,
So
in
on appeal,
2019, there were restrictions placed on some individuals who perpetrated wrongdoing during the elections.
Yes.
That was in 2019. I think that it was also said to have been done in another year. I can't remember now. But now, the US saying it will place a visa ban or restrictions on some Nigerians who perpetrated infractions, who undermined democracy, but they don't get to list names. How does that help us? If names were given, wouldn't it be better to name and shame, and Nigerians know, oh yes, truly, the world has known that yes, this individual, that individual did wrong. You are the ones undermining democracy. Wouldn't it be better? But just saying some Nigerians who undermined democracy have been, there's a restriction on visa ban and you can't come into the US. Is that enough?
Well, the law is not made to help us.
It's not made to help us.
Yeah, that's why, because you said that does this help us? It's meant to protect the United States territorial integrity from people who have no morals, who have no idea what it takes to stay within a democratic or civil engagement. People of questionable character who will do anything to frustrate a process. So what they do is that they have this name, and these names have been listed in the immigration portal or somewhere. I wouldn't know, but it's not public. Now, when that person applies for visa, the reason they will give will be that at some point you did this and that and that. So with that, you will not be allowed to come in. Now, I think the reason, maybe the reason they don't mention them might be possibly to protect them from stigma, from stigmatization, okay, or for people can cash on it. People can begin to use it.
But wouldn't that make other people sit up and do right?
Well, the message is that you should not engage in any action or inaction that will undermine democracy. If you are a politician or if you are a citizen, you are anybody, do not, because there's sanctions somewhere from a country that have zero tolerance for that. Okay, we have sovereignty. You can do anything you want to do here. If our laws don't catch up with you here, it does not mean that the Americans will come here and try you for offense you commit here. But they are saying that if you do the following, you will not be able to come into our space, okay, to enjoy whatever it is we have, because we have zero tolerance. It's like we forbid what you are doing, but we cannot deal with you in your own country because of the principles of sovereignty, but we can restrict you from coming into our space. I think that is why I say that the law is actually meant to protect the American democracy too, because I mean, they don't want you to come influence their own citizens.
But also, can we see a situation whereby an individual who is a big investor appeals, because we don't even know who these people are, and then he tries to go to the US and he's restricted, and then he appeals the judgment, and they say okay, and the presidency looks at it and say yes, this person truly has major investments, and if he decides not to pump money into it, most of it stolen money into it, our economy would be affected, and it's okay, allow him. Now, wouldn't that have defeated the purpose? Let's bear in mind that when Donald Trump placed restrictions on Nigerians and some other nations of the world, the US lost millions in dollars as these countries where, I mean,
it's Obama that did that. It's Obama did.
Trump
that.
did. Trump
Okay.
did also.
Okay.
Yes, Trump did. And they lost millions in dollars. Because, I mean, these were countries that flocked the US to study and all of that. But they were not getting that money.
Yes.
And they started to say, okay, let us reconsider this. Because, as you rightly said, it is not in the interest of Nigerians, nor is it in the interest of the other countries in the world whom they have restricted. It is in the interest of the US.
All right, before you respond, we have Kunle Falawa joining us virtually. Kunle, good morning and welcome to VOP this morning. Kunle, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear. Can you hear me?
Good morning and thank you for joining us on VOP this morning.
Good morning.
All right, thank you. Barrister, please go
Yes,
ahead.
I remember that. Yeah, Trump did that restriction. I remember when they also were reconsidering what issues are. I also remember that Obama also, there was a time he had to penalize not selling arms to us when we had issues and all that. But when
Yes.
Trump came in, that was when we acquired the Tucano jet and all that. So these restrictions, in as much as they are diplomatic, okay, they also function within bilateral and all the agreements, treaties we already have standing. We have treaties a lot with the US, trade treaties and all that we have with the US, okay, but this is an immigration law, okay, which for me is good enough, because if someone appeals and there are reasons to that effect, or even if the findings of the US was not actually grounded properly on fact, that this person undermined democracy, okay, the person can appeal, definitely, okay, and if they look at it and if they had erred in reaching that decision, they should be able to consider it. But one thing I know about the US is no matter how powerful you are, they take their country very serious, and they take their laws very serious.
All right, Kunle, so here is a scenario. The US has imposed visa ban on Nigerians who disrupted, either actively or not actively, who disrupted the 2023 elections. And we must say, for example, that names were not actually mentioned of these Nigerians. One would think that that particular imposition would have been effected immediately or possibly a week after the elections were conducted. I recall at the time that immediately the elections were conducted, we actually heard this information where they said they already know those who try to manipulate or disrupt the electoral process, and that there was already going to be a ban or a restriction on them having to travel out of the country, they and their family members. Now this information is coming again. Do you think that they have begun to place bans, especially on their visas or their family members?
All right. So, I mean, it's a welcome development when we have international, well, other countries, Western countries with advanced democratic practices, encouraging Nigerians not to get involved in any form of electoral malpractices or any form of sabotaging our democratic process across board. There's nothing absolutely wrong with that. Not only is that single step okay for the government that deemed it necessary, it's also very essential um, for our own democracy and our own sanity. Now, the reason I'm saying that is because let's just go a little step back and look at our society as it is. Our Nigerians generally, we have high taste. Not just high taste. Our politicians are very influential people inside of the country and outside of Nigeria. They have choice properties all over the world. U.S., United Kingdom, Dubai, any place you can mention, they have choice. And not only that, those governments are very well aware of those properties that these politicians have been able to acquire in those individual countries. Now, aside from that, they also have their kids. They bring their kids to other parts of the world or other countries, Western countries, they see very stable. They give birth to their kids over there, and those kids have dual citizenship, right? And that's another one. And then the third one is after all is said and done, those kids, as a matter of fact, I stand to be corrected, but there's a lot of politicians in Nigeria that they do send their kids abroad for education, for tertiary educations, for higher educations. Now, their kids are not even receiving their education in the country. So there are a lot at stake for politicians, not only in Nigeria, but politicians in Africa generally, because they know that the climate of the country is not stable. The continent politically is not very, they kind of diversify and they don't put all their eggs in one basket. They go to other countries and invest in their country because they seem to be very stable. So when
Uh,
international countries or international Western democracies are standing up and saying, you need to stop doing this, and if you continue doing this, we will penalize you. You would not be able to come into to our country and and engage with us. I think it's a step in the right direction. It's not enough, but it is something worthy.
All right. Kunle, sir, during the elections, we saw where a particular individual, literally, we did that particular scenario went viral on social media, where there were warnings on some particular ethnic group not to come out and cast their vote if they were not going to vote for the ruling All Progressives Congress. One would think that there would have been punitive measures, by the law enforcement agencies, because that is counter to democracy. You're literally, trying to prevent people from exercising their franchise, and you're giving them threats and saying if they do not come out to cast their vote, if they are not casting for a particular political party, that they shouldn't come out. So you literally disenfranchise them. One would think that the Nigerian police force, or possibly, the law enforcement arm in the country, would have taken the right direction in ensuring that he is apprehended and investigated and questioned as to what could have given him that brazen authority to have made that declaration by disenfranchising some Nigerians from coming to participate in the February 25 general elections. And now we're still having more issues coming up afterwards. You know, so there are investigations saying that May 29, there are individuals who are intending to scuttle the inauguration of President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Are we saying that law enforcement agencies are not capable enough, do not have the spine to exert what is meant to be exerted, considering the fact that there are punitive measures outlined in the Constitution against individuals who commit infractions like this?
We
I
all
think
know that
that was the March 18
a
elections
nation
update. Yeah.
democracy and the kind of democracy we operate in Nigeria is very feeble, not very strong. Uh, there is a lot of things that needs to be done that isn't doing or the government aren't doing yet. Uh, of course, it is necessary that we watch the utterances and political office holders and any influential politicians, anybody that matters, need to watch what they say and how they say it because you're in the public space. But however, um, sometimes when political parties are not kind of talking to their handlers and talking to those elected officials or their representatives and cautioning them on the words that are spoken to the people, it calls for concern. Now, security agencies and altogether aren't, they aren't doing enough. And that's just some parts of the problem that we are facing or experiencing in the country. We need to do better, definitely, and it's just not. It's just unfortunate that this is happening. But then again, we're doing the right thing by calling these things out. We know that it's wrong, and then calling this kinds of act out will further discourage other people from doing the same. I think that's another good step that I see that it's going right. But aside from that, politicians generally they need to distance themselves when their handlers are out of order, and also security operatives need to do a lot better at making sure that those individuals are sanctioned and and cautioned too.
Barrister Evans Ifeli. So May 29 has actually been, the focal point ever since, the February 25 elections were conducted, and Mahmoud Yakub announced President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the winner of the election. And right now, the Inspector General of Police has come out to actually say that there are some individuals, literally they named political actors and subversive elements and their foot soldiers who intend to scuttle the May 29 inauguration of the President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu. 2 days ago or yesterday, there were some individuals who went to court to question the 25%, what do you call it, 25% quagmire for Abuja. They said that how comes that particular state or the Federal Capital Territory did not get a percentage for the All Progressives Congress presidential candidate. And of course, May 29, he wants to be inaugurated. He has gone to court. The hearing has commenced. They staged protest. Do you think that these are the elements or individuals that the Inspector General of Police is actually talking about?
Well, this couldn't have been them because these ones have subjected their agitation to the court of law.
Okay.
The other ones are the ones that want to use force. Okay, so they couldn't have been the same people. I mean, the ones who went to court are civilized enough to say, if we have grievances, you bear grievances, you subject it to the court for court to make a pronouncement on the issue. That is the most civil way to go about grievances. But there are certain persons who say no, that because there were a lot of issues. I mean, he didn't win 25% in Abuja. They mentioned that he has a case with the US, he had drug this, he had all issues put together. That is not qualified, shouldn't be sworn in. You understand? So, but you see, all these issues, both the court, those who have gone to court, and the people, I think they just have to allow peace to reign. The matter is in court before this issue, this new court case again. Okay, it's already subjected to judicial system. Now, where we made a mistake is that even after we amended the new Electoral Act, we failed to, incorporate in the new Electoral Act that INEC should conduct election 1 year to the swearing in. You see, because the truth is this: by law, the tribunal have 180 days to disperse this case. And then from there, they will go to the Supreme Court because the tribunal, the Court of Appeal, sit as the tribunal in the presidential election tribunal. Okay, so after 180 days, the Supreme Court have 60 days. 60 days plus 180 days, put it together, you have months. Then the president will be, whoever it is that the president-elect, if he is sworn in, he will be in office for that length of time before this. Even though the law is that they must not exhaust, the court must not exhaust the entire number of days. But if they choose to exhaust it, that is what we have. Okay? So for me, I believe that we should allow, for now, the swearing in to happen. It does not mean that the president-elect, okay, will be the president till the end of time. Okay? If the court rules otherwise, he will have to vacate that seat. Okay, if not, he remains there. So that is, I mean, one of the prayers of those who went to court is that the tenure of the current president should be extended. That's one of the prayers. Which court will grant that prayer? When you have a constitution that says the tenure of a president will be 4 years, then he can renew, you can contest and have another 4 years. So you are now asking a court of law to extend the tenure of the current president, not to swear in the president-elect because of the following grounds. So it's both the matter in court, the intention of the litigators, and the outcome they wish to get from that court will lead to a constitutional crisis.
All right, now let's look at the U.S. visa ban again. Now, we do know that U.S. has business interests.
Yes.
In Africa, Nigeria in particular now, and also some Nigeria as a country needs the U.S. Sometimes we go to them for grants, we go to them for military assistance and things like that. Now that it is, it's obvious that some individuals undermined democracy and it brought about a government in place in Nigeria. Are we going to see a case where it might be difficult for the U.S. to pay attention to Nigeria or want to do business with Nigeria as a country on the grounds that the government in power came through political infractions and other things, brought that government in power into office? Is there a possibility of saying that?
Well, I don't think that is you see, that is why the sanction is on
individuals.
The individuals who did.
But it's not going to trickle into affecting the country.
The U.S. hasn't said that we don't have legitimacy, that the president-elect did not emerge from the mandate of the people. Okay? They haven't said that. If we have accepted it as the government, if the court pronounced and said that he won the elections, because the matter is sub judice, so that's why I'm trying to stay away from it.
I understand.
But if you look at the petition, and if you look at the number of polling units that the Labour candidate, for example, is contesting, the number of polling units, because it has to be substantial non-compliance with the Electoral Act. Okay, those number of polling units, is it wide enough to have grounded that if they did the wrong thing there, could he have turned the result to the other way around? Those are issues. I can't go into it. It's quite so much. So until if the court pronounce either way, the United States will have no choice, because it is the people's resolve, okay? It is the people's resolve. But if they have their reservations and they want to extend it to, but I don't think they will. That's why they pointed individuals and not the government or the entire city. They made that clear.
Yes,
Okay.
they did.
I think they've already answered the question by that, by saying these following individuals, not the entire government or the people. So whatever it is, they will have to accept us the way we are.
All right, then I must say a very big thank you to you, Evans Philly, legal practitioner. Thanks for coming on the program. And also big thanks to Kunle Falowo, who is a convener, Concerned Nigerians for Good Governance in Indianapolis. Thank you very much for coming on the program as well.
Thanks for having me.
Nigeria's Jollof Queen goes global as she sets a new world record for the longest cooking time by a single individual in the world. That's 90.
She actually did 100 hours.
100 hours.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Now that conversation comes up next. Stay with us.